guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, welcome. My name is Monici and I make videos about baking, faith-based videos, book reviews, which is what I'm going to do today. And this is actually my first book review video. I would love to get into that in a bit, but I really hope that you guys stick around and subscribe, like this video if you enjoy it, and let's get into it. So if you are new here and haven't seen my other videos, I am an immigrant child. So I was actually born in Brazil and we moved to the USA when I was 3 years old. And I actually didn't know, I knew English. Portuguese was my first language, but that it took me a bit to actually learn the English language. And I was super awkward when I first went to school because of my lack of English speaking. We would speak at home, but I was always very shy around people. And I think I was fluent in English, but it was just not as fluent as I should have been at that age because of the fact that I knew Portuguese first. So I actually got into reading when I went to school, and it helped me so much with learning the language, the English language, and I became a bookworm at a young age. I had amazing teachers helping me along the way. My love for reading kind of diminished as the years went by, and that's so sad. But last year in the fall, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna start reading again. And I know that when I was younger, I loved fiction books. I love fantasy, everything that makes me feel like I'm in the book. Like as I'm reading, I feel like I'm there with the main character reading, and like I'm going on adventures with the main character. So I decided I'm gonna go to Barnes and Nobles and just pick a book. I picked the first book that I was drawn to, and it was actually the first book that got me hooked on reading again, and it just made me so happy. So I'm going to go into that, talk about this book. So the first book that I want to talk about is called The 10,000 Doors of January by Alix E. Harrow. And can we just appreciate how gorgeous this cover is? Look at it. The keys, the flowers, the doorknob, it is gorgeous. So you understand why I was drawn to it when I saw it. I had no idea what it was about, but when I read what it was about, I was like, you know what, this sounds actually super interesting. So I'm just gonna read what it says in the back and get into why I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. As the ward of the wealthy Mr. Locke, January Scholar feels little different from the artifacts that decorate his sprawling mansion. Carefully maintained, largely ignored, and utterly out of place. But when she finds a strange book, one that tells a tale of secret doors, of love, adventure, and danger, for the first time, January realizes she can escape her story and sneak into someone else's. So this book is fantasy. There's a lot of adventure. You grow so attached to the characters in the book, and you feel like you're right there having these adventures with them. And I loved the way that the author wrote it. It was beautifully written, super detailed, and I totally recommend reading this book. I loved it so much, and I did not want to put it down. And after reading this, I was like, you know what? I need more books. Give me more books. And when you find a book that makes you want to continue reading, it's so special. So This book, I have a special place in my heart for it. So the next book that I read is called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but this is what the book looks like. This is interesting because after reading The 10,000 Doors of January, I was looking for another book to read and I didn't want to go and buy one. And my husband loves reading. He's a bookworm. He actually went to school to be an English teacher, so he just always buys books that he's drawn to when he goes out to the bookstore. So this is one of them that he picked up on one of his trips, and I decided to read it, and I actually really enjoyed it. It's very deep, meaningful. I did not expect it to get so philosophical. It was good though. I enjoyed it. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but the main character is named Nora Seed, and she finds herself in the Midnight Library. When Nora Seed finds herself in the Midnight Library, she has a chance to make things right. Up until now, her life has been full of misery and regret. She feels she has let everyone down, including herself, but things are about to change. The books in the Midnight Library enable Nora to live as if she had done things differently. With the help of an old friend, she can now undo every one of her regrets as she tries to work out her perfect life. But things aren't always what she imagined they'd be, and soon her choices place the library and herself in extreme danger. Before time runs out, she must answer the ultimate question: what is the best way to live? So it's deep, but I really enjoyed it. And it's actually set in Bedford, England. I love when you can see where certain characters are living in this story because you can kind of read it in the accent in your head. I mean, I'm sure that everybody does that, but it's so interesting how that happens. I would give this a 4 out of 5 maybe. So next up is The Christmas Bookshop by Jenny Colgan. This I got for Christmas. No. The other book called The Bookshop on the Corner is by the same author, Jenny Colgan. I actually asked for the other one for Christmas, so I'm excited to read that. I haven't read it yet, but this one was the Christmas version and loved it. It was kind of like a Hallmark movie in book form. It was just like super heartwarming, very like holiday feel. If you're looking for something to feel good and cozy, wintertime, this is the book for you. Well, this book is about, the main character is Carmen. She just got laid off from her job at a department store, and she does not have a lot of options, and her sister Sophia and her do not get along. But Sophia is in need of some assistance because she is pregnant and has little children, and she asks Carmen if she can come and help her out. At the same time, Carmen has to help Mr. McCready, who has a bookshop. This is set in Scotland, by the way, so that's also super exciting. I love when books are set in Ireland, Scotland. It's my dream to go there one day. And so she has to help Mr. McCready to fix up this bookshop, and it follows her throughout this adventure that she has to go on, taking care of her sister, her nieces and nephews, and then this new bookshop that she has to basically fix up because it's not doing so great. As I was saying, this book has a lot of family, romance, a little bit of everything. It's just very heartwarming and cozy. So if you want to curl up to nice feel-good book, this is it, especially during the holidays. I give this a 5 out of 5. Next book is pretty dark for my taste. I am not a big fan of like dark books. It was beautifully written. I was drawn to the cover because it is gorgeous. So this is called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And she's a really good author. Beautifully written, but not my cup of tea. I give it a 3 out of 5. It's basically about a girl named Addie LaRue, and she makes a deal with the devil, basically, a dark being. We don't know if he's a demon or not, but he's a dark being. And this is set in France in the 1700s, and she makes a bargain to live forever, and she's cursed to be forgotten by everybody she meets, basically. And one day, 300 years later, she meets a young man at a bookshop, and he remembers her. So then starts the whole journey of this story, and it's pretty good. It's just very dark, it's fantasy. If you're into that, 100% recommend. I didn't love it. She has another book coming out that's just come out actually, called Gallant, and I want to read it. I'm gonna see if I can read it for the Halloween season, because it seems like there's some ghouls and kind of spooky characters. So yeah, that is that one. So beautiful cover though. And what I love about this book cover, when you take the book cover off, there's I Remember You, and it's just very beautiful. So this is the book that I'm currently reading, and it's about fairies. So I love fairies. It just makes me so happy. I'm pretty much halfway through it. It's called The Cottingley Secret by Hazel Gaynor, and it is, I don't know if you guys have heard of have seen the pictures of, it was like in the early 1900s, basically these two girls took pictures of fairies in England, and it became this huge thing, and it was basically a hoax, and a lot of people believed that it was not a hoax. And this is basically about that story. It is about Frances Griffith and her cousin Elsie Wright, and they're both basically, Frances and her mother are living at her cousin's house during the war. Frances's father is in the war, and they're all living in the same house. And one day Frances goes down to the bottom of the garden, and she sees fairies. And then when she tells Elsie, Elsie has this idea to make these photos. They basically make fake fairies and try to convince people that they're real fairies, even though Frances is 100% convinced that she sees these fairies. And basically it gets out of hand, and this is what I'm reading. So I'm in the middle of it, and it's really good. So far I give it a 5 out of 5. It's, if you love fairies, fantasy, 100% recommend. And also, look how beautiful. I love the colors that they picked for this cover. It's just gorgeous. I find it interesting that almost all of the books that I've read recently have a library in them. It's interesting. Yeah, like a bookshop library. There's always some sort of library in these books, but I'm not complaining. I love it. So yeah, if you I will leave the links to these books in the description box if you guys are interested in reading them. They have been good for my brain, good for my heart, and my mental health, so that's it. Since spring is coming soon, I thought I would show off this gorgeous Jane Austen collection that my husband got for me for my birthday. Whenever I think of Jane Austen, I think it's like they're the perfect books to read when it's springtime for me. I don't know why, but so look at this. I have sadly never read a Jane Austen book. I did read Pride and Prejudice, but forever ago. I was young. I probably don't even remember most of it, so I've seen the movies, but I want to read all of Jane Austen's books. So, I mean, they're beautiful. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's so pretty. My dad actually got me selected works of the Bronte sisters, and I have read Wuthering Heights before. It is one of my favorite stories. So I thought this book was gorgeous, and we were out one day and I was like, oh my goodness, this book is so pretty. And my dad was like, oh, do you have it? Do you have these stories? And I was like, no. So then he got it for me. So I'm excited to read it. This actually has Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, and The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, which I've heard really good things about. And so I'm excited to read them and eventually review these books. So, yeah. That's it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and let me know if you have any book recommendations for me in the comments down below. What books do you want to read? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to chat with you guys. Okay, see you in the next video, guys. Bye.